The movie starts on a cheerful Christmas night with houses beautifully decorated. Manel and his wife visit his sister's house, where they have fun playing with his young nephew. Later in the evening, Manel puts his nephew to sleep, says goodbye to his sister, and they start driving home. On the way, Manel notices a shift in his wife's mood and asks her about it. She tells him that she wants to have a child. Manel understands her wish, but he tells her that he isn't ready yet. As their argument gets more intense, Manel's wife gets really upset, thinking that Manel doesn't want a child like she does. The argument distracts them, and another car suddenly passes them, causing her to lose control of their car. Despite trying to regain control, they end up in the wrong lane. Before she can fix it, a truck hits them, flipping their car and causing a terrible crash. Manel survives, but sadly, his wife does not. A year later, Manel lives alone in his big house with only his cat for company. News breaks out about a dangerous virus spreading across the country, causing borders to close to stop it from spreading. The virus makes people extremely violent, like zombies, attacking others. Luckily, efforts to control the virus are starting to work. People infected with the virus are no longer acting like zombies, but this is just the first type of the virus. Every news channel is filled with debates and theories about where the virus came from. But Manel doesn't care. He's still heartbroken over his wife's death and feels numb to everything else. Ignoring all the safety warnings, he drives into the city. The streets are eerily quiet, and there are scary signs saying, "Welcome to the beginning of the end." Manel went to the seaside to sell a boat his late wife had bought. After completing the sale with a customer, we see he was driving and received a call from his sister, Belén, but he chose not to answer it. On his way back, he stopped at a store and found it in complete chaos. People were desperately buying supplies, even though the news advised only getting essentials. But fear of an upcoming lockdown had caused everyone to panic and stock up on necessities in case they had to stay home. After getting home, Manel calls his sister Belén. She tells him that because her husband is in the army, they are being moved to an island to stay safe from the virus. She urges Manel to come with them since they'll have a safe place to stay. They plan to leave tonight, but Manel initially says no. However, Belén insists, saying it's important for family to stick together in such times. She reassures him that flights to the island are leaving from the nearby airport and convinces him to come, even if it means traveling the next day. Despite his hesitation, Manel finally agrees to join them. The next morning, Manel headed to the airport with his cat, joining many others in cars trying to get to the island. Listening to the news on his car radio, he found out that a new version of the virus had appeared overnight, which now spreads through cuts and infected blood. When he got to the airport, he joined a long line of worried travelers waiting to buy tickets. Everyone was tense and nervously watching each other, afraid of getting infected. Suddenly, an announcement came on saying the flight to the island had been canceled. Panic spread through the crowd as they wondered how they would now get to safety. As Manel nervously waited at the airport, his sister Belén called him. She told him that because of the new virus variant, the airport was closing and all flights were canceled. She advised him to go back home and stay inside, promising to keep him informed about what to do next. Chaos broke out at the airport as people panicked, but Manel managed to get away with his cat. On his way home, he got stuck in a huge traffic jam. After waiting for hours with no progress, Manel decided to leave his car and walk home, carrying his cat in his arms. By the time Manel got home, it was already night, and he saw something unsettling. Soldiers were near his neighbor's house. They were forcibly taking his neighbor away because they had caught the new variant of the virus. The sight was both scary and a clear reminder of the worsening situation. Shaken, Manel quietly went into his house and, despite the chaos outside, managed to get some sleep. The next morning, Manel got another call from his sister, Belén. She told him that the situation was getting worse quickly. The government was setting up safe zones to quarantine people, but there were rumors that these zones might be more dangerous because of the high number of people, which could spread the virus more. Belén urged Manel to stay home and avoid these safe zones at all costs. She promised they would come for him once things got better. Afterward, Manel watched the news, which confirmed that the borders were closed, and his phone was filled with videos showing the terrifying spread of the virus. The news explained different ways to avoid infected people and how various virus variants spread. making Manel very anxious. The government's emergency message announced that people would soon have to stay indoors, and markets would close. So Manel rushed to the store for supplies, but found it almost empty, with frantic people grabbing the last remaining items. Despite others taking things from his grasp, Manel managed to get a few essentials and quickly left the chaotic scene. As he came out, Manel saw something terrifying: an infected person attacking a police officer. Manel grabbed a rod and ran to help the officer, but the infected person turned towards Manel and charged at him. Just in time, the officer shot and killed the infected person. When Manel tried to help the officer, who was now infected from a wound, warned Manel to stay away to avoid spreading the virus further. After Manel left, the officer, not wanting to risk harming others, took his own life. Manel went back home, deeply disturbed by what had happened. He immediately started making his house more secure by adding extra locks, reinforcing the doors with rods to make sure no one could break in. By evening, the internet and phone network had gone down, cutting him off from the outside world even more. That night, the army came to Manel's neighborhood with a bus to take people to a safe zone. Soldiers used loudspeakers to tell everyone to get on the bus. But Manel didn't want to go. He turned off all the lights in his house and hid, making sure no one would see him and make him leave. He could hear people walking towards the bus while he stayed hidden, his heart pounding in the quiet and dark of his fortified home. 2 weeks later, Manel was completely alone in the empty neighborhood. He made a video message for his sister, telling her he was safe. However, he admitted that he had run out of food and water. Unfortunately, he couldn't send the video because the network was still down. He realized that even if he avoided getting infected, he might still face the danger of starving. Desperate for food, Manel armed himself and went through the neighborhood looking for something to eat. He searched many houses but couldn't find any food. His search took him far from his home. Eventually, he found a house with an elderly woman in a wheelchair who couldn't move around. He hoped she might have some food, but he was disappointed to find there was nothing there either. The old woman told Manel that she had been watching some nearby houses and thought they might have food. Manel took her advice and checked out the houses, finding enough food to satisfy their hunger. The woman was sorry that Manel hadn't left with the army, worried they might have starved. Manel encouraged her to stay hopeful and promised to keep looking for supplies. On his next trip, he found a big stash of food in one house and brought it back to sustain them both. That night, Manel and the old woman enjoyed their meal, feeling relieved for the first time in days. Manel shared his thoughts about his late wife, feeling a mix of sadness and relief that she didn't have to go through these tough times. After talking a bit more, he went back to his own home. Wanting to stay connected, he recorded and sent video messages to his sister, hoping they would go through once the network was back up. Exhausted but a bit more at peace, Manel finally fell asleep. Then suddenly, Manel heard the old woman's voice through the walkie-talkie, telling him to turn on the radio quickly. When he did, he heard a government announcement saying all survivors should go to the safe zone camp to get help and transportation to Ireland. The old woman, not trusting the plan, warned Manel that the infection could spread quickly in a crowd. Manel, knowing they were running out of food, insisted they had no choice and said, "We have to go. There's not enough food here." The old woman reminded him that she was in a wheelchair and couldn't make the trip, but Manel, determined to help, reassured her, "It's my job to help you. I'll make sure you get there safely." The next morning, Manel packed his things and went to the old woman's house. He was heartbroken to find that she had taken an overdose of medicine to end her life. Beside her was a touching letter thanking him for his care and explaining that she didn't want to be a burden anymore. She urged him to continue his journey alone. Filled with sorrow, Manel left the house alone. On the way, he was suddenly attacked by an infected woman. He managed to push her away, and in a desperate act of self-defense, shot her. He felt guilty, but his survival instincts took over. Later, he recorded another message for his sister, explaining that the streets were now full of infected people, and he couldn't wait for her to come for him. Determined to reach safety, he set off for the safe zone camping area on a bike, hoping to be taken to the island. With the main road blocked, Manel had to go through the dense jungle while being chased by a group of infected people. He didn't stop his bike until he reached the camping area, but found it full of dead bodies, people who had gathered there and died from the virus. While moving through the scene, his bike hit a dead body, causing him to crash and his cat's box to fall out. Desperately, he tried to restart the bike, but it wouldn't work, so he grabbed the cat's box and continued on foot, running from the infected. Manel reached a building and blocked the door as the infected pounded on it. Slipping out the back, he saw a small ship, but his relief was ruined by seeing blood on its deck. Then Manel heard a noise from the cabin. When he carefully opened the door, he found a small baby who was infected. Manel struggled with what to do. If it had been an adult, he might have ended their suffering and taken the ship, but he couldn't bring himself to harm a child. Feeling very sad, he decided to take a small boat from the ship and leave. As Manel traveled, he sent a message to his sister Belén, telling her she was right about avoiding the safe zone. He described the terrible situation there, with many people either dead or infected. As night fell and he continued his journey, the darkness made everything feel even more eerie. Manel shivered when he saw the lifeless bodies of the infected floating in the water, reminding him of the dangerous reality they were all facing. As Manel floated on the water, he saw a small ship coming his way. He waved frantically to get their attention, and they stopped. The crew, worried about infection, aimed their guns at him. Manel assured them he wasn't infected, so they let him on board. They went to a larger ship, where Manel and his cat were given food and care. Soon, 3 people arrive, one of whom is the pilot named Viktor Prichenko, and the other the ship's captain named Ushakov. They ask him some questions, and then Viktor gave Manel a cabin to rest in. Curious, Manel asked if he was the only survivor they had found. The pilot nodded, confirming Manel was indeed the first. After Manel settled into his cabin, he looked out the window and saw a family coming towards the ship, looking like they wanted to help. The next morning, he met the other people who had been on the ship for a while. Curious about the family he saw, Manel asked Viktor where they were. Viktor, looking confused, said, No one came to the ship last night." After Viktor dismissed Manel's concerns, Manel felt uneasy and started paying more attention to his surroundings. He again confronted Viktor, insisting that the family he saw last night must have been taken to the basement. Viktor, getting annoyed, told Manel to stay out of it. Manel's suspicion grew. He questioned Viktor, saying, "You're a pilot, so why are you on a ship? There are planes and helicopters nearby. We could use them to get to the island." Viktor's face darkened with anger, and he warned Manel, "If you want to stay alive, you better stay out of this." Hearing this, Manel decided to escape on his own, but he couldn't stop thinking about the missing family. At night, he went to the basement and found the family tied up and gagged. He quickly freed them, and they asked anxiously about a missing woman and child. Manel told them he didn't know where they were. Suddenly, one of Ushakov's men showed up with a gun pointed at Manel. Just when things looked bad, Viktor came and shot the man. Viktor then angrily told Manel, "I told you to stay out of this." After the difficult escape, Manel and Viktor got away in a small boat, but the Ushakov's men saw them and started shooting. In the chaos, the man they had just saved was killed, and Viktor got injured. When they reached the shore, Manel quickly took Viktor to a hospital, hoping to find a helicopter on the roof for their next escape. While driving, Manel asked Viktor about the woman and child from the family. Viktor, feeling hurt and bitter, told Manel that Ushakov is a terrible person who saves people only to exploit them, turning the dead into slaves and committing horrible acts against the women. After hearing what Viktor revealed, Manel was furious. Determined to punish those exploiting others, he headed towards the hospital with his machine gun. He shot the hostile men, clearing the way. Inside, he found a scene of complete destruction. No nurses or doctors, just blood everywhere. Understanding the serious situation, Manel prepared to do emergency surgery to remove Viktor's bullet, even though he wasn't trained. As he gathered supplies, an infected man attacked him, but Manel shot and killed the attacker, barely surviving. With new determination, he focused on saving Viktor. The sound of the gunfire attracted a group of infected people, so Manel had to run for his life. Just when he thought he couldn't escape, a nurse named Lucia showed up and led him to a safe area that the infected hadn't reached yet. In this safe area, there were a nun named Cecilia and 3 children. Lucia quickly took Viktor to another room to remove the bullet. After a long time, Lucia came back and told Manel that the surgery was successful and Viktor would recover. Manel, feeling relieved but still worried, mentioned that Viktor was a pilot. "Is there any helicopter in hospital?" Hearing Lucia's words, Manel felt disheartened when he learned that there were helicopters available, but surrounded by infected people. Afterward, Manel shared a memory with her about a tragic accident that brought his wife to this hospital. With a heavy heart, he went to the place where she had died. Standing there, he whispered, "Please forgive me for not listening to you. I thought we had more time, but I didn't know you would leave me so soon." Feeling the weight of his grief, he also knew he had to find a way out and prepared himself for the difficult challenges ahead. Now Manel goes to the rooftop of the hospital and thinking about the safest way to reach the helicopter. Suddenly, his phone buzzed with a lot of messages. The network was back. He quickly checked and saw a video message from Belén, happily saying that they had reached the island and were enjoying themselves. Just as Manel was about to respond, he heard gunfire. Ushakov and his men had arrived, looking for the helicopter. Manel ran downstairs and warned everyone that the goons were at the hospital. "We need to reach the helicopter before they do," he urged, knowing their time to escape was running out. With determination, Manel started moving through the crowd of infected people. Suddenly, one of them attacked Cecilia, biting him. Manel quickly killed the attacker, but Cecilia get infected. She told Lucia to protect the children, and Cecilia remains behind to stop the infected people. As they moved, they see all the zombies outside. Seeing them, Manel make a plan. He ties a bunch of cages together, and they use them as a shield to cross the yard. They carefully moved inside this protective shield, but a tire got stuck. When Manel tried to free it, the tire make a loud noise, attracting all the nearby infected people towards them. Luckily, the shield held back the infected for a while, but as they started climbing over, Lucia bravely fought them off with an axe. Despite her efforts, there were too many of them. In a desperate move, Lucia opened a barricade and quickly got the children into the helicopter. Victor arrived and got on too. However, to their shock, the helicopter wouldn't start. As the infected broke through the gate and got closer, Manel felt the situation getting more urgent. Manel quickly started fighting the infected with his axe. The noise attracted the goons, who rushed into the helicopter area with guns. So Manel and Victor exchanged worried looks and quickly came up with a desperate plan. Manel used his axe to break down a gate, letting a swarm of infected into the helicopter area. The goons were overwhelmed by the infected and had to fight them off, giving Manel and Victor a crucial chance to escape. At that moment, the helicopter had also started, and Victor takes him and starts flying. But Lucia throws the ladder down for Manel, on which he climbs and comes in the helicopter with great difficulty. He was very happy because he was just about to reach the island. He calls Belén and says, "Sister, I am about to reach the island." But from there, Belén says, "My brother, go back immediately, because there are also a lot of infected people there. This place is also not safe anymore." And his phone is cut off, and 2 fighter jets fly by, confirming the islands are infected as well.